and welcome back to the Foot Soldiers podcast. As always, I'm Luke. I'm joined today once again, as last time, with Sean and Chris. We're recording this on the 11th of January, and it's been somewhat of a busy week for the Cavalry for the second week of January. We've had a few re-signings as well as some news involving our coach, so I'm just going to get right into it. So the first news story came on January 6th, when it was announced that Cavalry were going to be re-signing backup goalkeeper Joseph Holliday and right back Michael Harms to the next season. So if you want to get some thoughts on that, we can go right into it.
Yeah, I'm a big Michael Harms guy. So anytime I hear that Michael Harms has been signed, that's great. I know Amy Walsh is also a big Michael Harms guy. So if you're listening, Amy, which I'm sure you're not, congratulations as well. I'd like to see him get a few more minutes. We're not totally sure what's going on with Aird. As of recording, we haven't heard whether he's signed or not. I do know that Levi Lang played a little bit of right back last year for a couple games. So maybe the plan is to have Levi Lang at right back with Michael Harms maybe getting a little bit higher of a minute count. But yeah, I'm pumped to see Harms back. Holiday, I guess it depends on if he sees any time in the net. We didn't see him much last year, so maybe with Marco off, maybe he gets a few more minutes here.
Yeah, I mean, I feel pretty similar. I think both of these are just good business. I don't think they're, changing the culture of the club or anything like that. Like, I think, Sean, you kind of alluded to, with the whole Quebec, maybe Michael Harms would be a target for Supra. So I thought that was a good guess and was maybe surprised that he didn't end up there. But I think with Harms and Holiday, I don't really have strong feelings because I don't think we've seen enough of them for me to really have an idea what they're going to be. But I think, they've been with the team, and with the bunch of turnover that I can see coming, it's kind of nice to keep some of the outliners, quote unquote, together, and we'll see. And I would like to see us. I mean, it's tough for those winning teams to give any time to the backup keeper, but I would like us to use our backup keeper more this year. And it looks like it's going to be a Holiday, but outside of that, I think it's a good piece of business. I don't think it really moves the needle too much for me one way or the other, but hey, they're part of the culture, so I'd rather have them than not have them.
Yeah, just real quickly here, Chris. I do think you're confusing Michael Harms and Mael Henry. Michael Harms is, of course, a Calgary guy. He was born and raised here. I don't really see him signing for Supra. But apart from that, I do think Michael Harms is certainly a very competent player at this level. He's played more than I was expecting looking at the list here. He's had 12 appearances for the club. I mean, granted, that's over 3 years, but for such a young, exciting player, it's always going to be a good thing.
You're bang on there, Luke, because I was just thinking when Sean said right back, I was like, I'm pretty sure the guy I was envisioning in my head was playing on the left wing, so that would explain that. So my bad.
Yeah, just another note here on Michael Harms. He is still a U21 player. He was born in 2005, so he's going into his last year of U21 eligibility, which as we get closer to the season and the roster starts to build up a little bit more, that's obviously a big consideration. When you consider that last year, probably the bulk of our U21 minutes came from Gareth Semenkov, and I think Mael Henry was U21 last year. He's not this year, so hopefully we'll see Harms get some more time. Again, even if Fraser Aird comes back, which is certainly still not outside the realm of possibility, he's obviously getting older. You wouldn't mind giving a bit more game time to a young local talent like Michael Harms that can get those U21 minutes. And yeah, the Joseph Holiday thing, 1 appearance in 3 years. Does it get much better than that? He played in the cup game against Scottish. He's kept a clean sheet in all his games. He's never let a goal in, which is, you'll take that. But yeah, I imagine it'll be kind of the same thing as last year with Ingham playing almost every game.
Yeah, no harm in giving Harms a little action there, and it won't be any Holiday for Joseph for sure.
Yeah, exactly. I do hope that if Holiday ever plays again, we can bang out the Holiday chant we did last time, the Madonna song, which is a good time in that great clean sheet. And yeah, the other news. So if those are like more routine re-signings of young players, certainly Harms and Holiday. Just get it up here. On January 8th, it was announced that Calgary re-signed Michael Baldissimo to a new contract for 2026 with options for 2027 and 2028. This one's probably a bit more divisive, I think, in the Calgary fan base. We all know that he's been a decent player, but the fitness is obviously a concern, as well as maybe who he's taking minutes from. So,
I mean, I don't know how that injury. I think it takes a little bit of time for anybody coming in to a new team to kind of adjust and whatnot. And then he had that injury kind of fairly early on. I was able to talk to him, Luke, at that Okotoks Dogs game. It was shortly after we had signed him, and he seemed pretty excited to join the team and kind of get to see what Calgary and area was all about. So, I mean, just based on that one small interaction, I'm kind of curious to see what this year looks like. I don't think his on-field performance really lived up to what I think a big signing, quote unquote, a big signing he was. But again, I don't know if that's an injury first year adjusting to a new environment. So for me, this is kind of like I'm kind of neutral. I wouldn't have been heartbroken if we didn't sign him, but I mean, maybe better to know somebody, somebody who you've scouted and and I don't know. What do you think, Sean?
My opinion on this one kind of depends on whether or not we sign Schmidt Schoen or re-sign Schmidt Schoen. So if Schoen's back, I don't mind the signing at all because Baldissimo is a different type of player. He's kind of more of that deep lying playmaking midfielder who can, just spray balls throughout the pitch, like especially out wide. So if we do re-sign Schoen, because Schoen can play a little bit of everything, then I don't mind it because he can be depth. Because Cobbs is re-signed as well. So I don't mind that. If Shome is not re-signed, then I think Baldissimo is not a replacement for him. He doesn't really get in attack that much. I mean, it's tough to say because he wasn't around on the pitch that much last year, but you didn't really notice his impact in games outside of I think one goal from outside the box, and then maybe a couple of nice passes, like long diagonals. But I didn't really notice much from him throughout the course of the season. And for someone with his pedigree, with like 50 games in MLS, you thought he would have been better. So like at face value, I'm kind of indifferent. But yeah, again, it depends on who else we have coming and what type of role he'll have.
yeah, I really do think you kind of hit the nail on the head there with the Shamit Shome thing. 'Cause I'm just looking at the way our midfield is currently stacked up. Also, this year we currently, as of the time that we re-signed Baldissimo on Friday, I believe, we had 5 midfielders at the club. We had Michael Baldissimo, Sergio Camargo, Lyle Henry, James McGlinchey, and Nico Moroniuk. And if we assume that Shamit Shome's not coming back, because that means that Gutierrez is gone, they're obviously not counting Cobbs as a midfielder, which he probably should be. But if Gutierrez is gone, which he is, that now means that Michael Baldissimo is probably, along with Cobbs, the most senior defensive midfielder on the team right now, right? Because obviously I don't really count Camargo in that same level, and it's kind of at a point now where if we don't sign Shamit Show, we need to sign another really high-end top CPL midfielder to kind of try and fill that gap. We don't want to be left behind in that part of the pitch. And I do think, just to the Cobbs point, we talked about this a little bit on the show last year. Like, I think at this point, I think he plays his best football in DM. We had the center back experiment, which he was great in 2023 when he filled in for Montgomery, who was injured. But where we're at now, I think the team's at its best when we can have Cobbs playing in the midfield and going from there.
Yeah, and there's also a couple of rumors that Amir Didic is signing with Cavalry. So if he does sign with Cavalry, then that means we have Klump, we have Montgomery, we have Lang, and then we'd have Didic. For if at best a back three, there's going to be someone out. So I think that means they see Cobbs more as a midfielder, and yeah, I think he did really excel as a midfielder. I mean, he was good in 2023. I think he was a real revelation. And then 2024, he kind of struggled. And then I don't really remember him playing center back last year after his injury. He was really good against Pumas, if I remember correctly. But yeah, I think once he moved into midfield, I think he really bossed that around with Peepgrass there as well. So and Peepgrass could be an option as well. I know his mom is in with some of the folks in various supporters, and it sounds like there might be some interest there.
Okay, well we've lost Sean there, folks, but that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, just to kind of follow up on what Sean was saying, like of all the announcements that have come, and thankfully there's been a little bit of news, in between pods here. Um, the Eric Comsa one for me, that's the one that I think has the most impact to me. And again, feel free to criticize me. That's just my opinion, whether you think of Baltissimo or some of the other signings. But I think Kobza, I agree with you all that lying kind of defensive midfielder, I think that's where he's certainly at his best.
Welcome back, Sean.
Great
Yeah,
analysis. The analysis was so good, Google can handle it. So
yeah, there you go. But yeah, anyway, back to that point, the Eric Costa point. Like, I really think, again, like you were saying, 2023, he kind of saved our asses because we didn't really have the center back depth, and obviously Montgomery went down. We had to kind of push him back there. But I always felt like he was kind of made to look a bit better than he is by virtue of playing next to Dan Klump, who is probably the best defender in this league anyways. And then I think we saw in 2025, the first half of the year when Klump was gone, like Kobza struggled with being like the main center back man, not having that to fall back on. So I do really think that if we can just let him be a full-time defensive midfielder, bring in Didic, which Didic would fucking rock as a center back on this team. Like, he's been one of the best center backs in this league since it started. I mean, obviously coming off a bit of an injury last year with Ottawa, but if we can get Didic in, Didic, Klump, and then I almost then wouldn't mind as much if Fraser Erd leaves, right? Because you could do Lang and Harms as the full-time right back and not really have to worry about the center back that much with Montgomery. That's good depth there.
Yeah, Didic. I mean, if we can nab Didic, I think just for he's a big, like I'm always kind of surprised every time I see him. For whatever reason, I just forget how big of a man he is. And when whether it's been with FC Edmonton or any of the other teams he's been to, whenever he comes, I'm like he has that aura of owning his space in the box, whether that's defensively or offensively. And he kind of plays with like a little bit of a chippy edge that I kind of like. So if we can get him, I think that would really solidify. And going back to last week's pod, between Ingham, Klomp, and Didic, like that's a tremendous place to build a back spine out and go from there.
I'll just make sure not to take any photos with him because I will feel like so little of a man next to him because he is an absolute like beast. And I
He's
am
a
not.
unit.
Yeah, he is not 5'6" and built like a bag of milk. So
Yeah, no, I really do think Didic is like really built like a proper center back. Like in another life, he could have been like a bouncer at like the shitty nightclub in Edmonton, right? So you could totally see that for him. And I do think certainly if we assume him as like the prototypical physical kick your ass center back, like even more so than people we've had in the past, like him and Dan Klump would be almost the perfect like dog and cat center back pairing. That would kind of be like what we had in 2021. Like, he's obviously, I'm not shitting on Kareem Fayal, but he would, I think, be a better version than what Kareem Fayal was for this team, right? So that would be very exciting. Obviously, an Alberta boy. It'd be great to pry one away from Alberta or from Ottawa. So that's nothing else to say about the re-signings this week. Then we can move on to the other big piece of news this week, which was our fearless leader, Tommy Wheeldon Jr., getting called up to join Jesse Marsh in his Camp Poutine.
Man, I have not heard of any Tommy Wheeldon haters around the Foot Soldiers in the last little bit. So I think they've all kind of shut up a little bit with the unexpected finals appearance. Well, first winning the championship and then the unexpected finals appearance and knocking out, or not knocking out Pumas, I wish. Winning a game over Pumas, which is still a really big deal. And then getting called up to the national teams. So if there are any haters, I'm sure there are, make sure to add us and disagree. But you're all wrong and we are right. And we are Cavs. We are Cavs. Tommy is our king.
I think it's a tremendous opportunity for him just to, between him and Bobby getting an interview for the position that ultimately Jesse March uh, was the winner of. I think, I also think it's kudos to Jesse for, it's not just been Tommy, there's been a bunch of other coaches as well that he's kind of brought under the field of Canada soccer. And I've been really impressed with Jesse March, actually. He seems to really want to build something, and I think he understands that you need the foundation and the grassroots all the way up in order to be a successful football country. And I think it's, great, even just from a networking part of Tommy, different, whether it's different tactics or it's interactions with different players, I think it's a tremendous opportunity. And it was one that it kind of came out of nowhere for me when I saw the news, but I was super pumped. And, it makes this kind of poutine camp and this next friendly against Guatemala, I'm even more excited for it just because I want the team to succeed because Tommy's part of it. So yeah, great piece of news for me.
In honor of Camp Poutine, I'm actually making poutine for dinner tomorrow night. So I'll send you guys some photos. I do think, yeah, because that's a good point about bringing in other coaches, because Geyser from Halifax has been in a camp. I think James Merriman's been in a camp. I think Mario Eustachio has been in a camp as well, and maybe one other. So, he's doing a good job of spreading the love of like, this is the way we want to play with the national team. So if you want to develop players to become former or future national team stars, a la Joel Waterman, greatest sports CPL's ever used, this is the philosophy we entail, and here's how you can help bring those players forward. So, and it looks like there's a few CPL players in camp, and as much as we're annoyed at Noah Botnay or Thiago Corbra when he scores on us, or I'm never annoyed at Chula Gimo. I think he's awesome, but it's nice to see for a Camp Poutine that some of these players that we watch on a daily basis or on a weekly basis, they're doing big things, and because they're not Forge players, we can support them a little bit, maybe a little less about after he won that title, but yeah, good things, not just for the coaches but for the players as well.
And John, I know this is a Foot Soldiers podcast, obviously, but kind of parallel there, with the women's national team as well, some call-ups from the domestic league that kind of has, and I think that's part of us growing as a football nation, is that our football leagues can produce players that are playing on the national team, both men and women. And I think, that's a credit, and that's how important these leagues are, and the opportunities that these leagues provide to, young Canadians. So yeah, and the coaches as well. And yeah, so I think it's exciting. I think it's good news.
Yeah, Grace Story, call her up, Stoney. Let's go.
Yeah, just agreeing with you there, Sean. I have been really impressed with the extent to which Jesse Marsh has, like, he's spoken about how he wants us to be like the people's team and playing games across the country. We also saw the rumors a couple weeks ago about the game in Edmonton. I don't know what's going on with that, but we got all we can do is pray. That'd be sick to have a game in Edmonton before the World Cup. Like, obviously at this point, I'm not really as big of a national team fan. I think it's either of you. I'm still going to support them. I'm not like locked in all the time as much as I certainly used to be, but it is very exciting. Seeing Tommy Wheeldon, the best coach in the history of our domestic league, being given consideration for this opportunity. He's had experience in the past coaching, I believe with the youth teams like over a decade ago now, but getting back in there, getting stuck in with Jesse Marsh is going to be an exciting thing. And I do wonder if in his own mind, he's the silver lining for not making Champions League is he gets to do this. Because if we're in Champions League, he'd be busy getting the team ready for that. Who want to get this opportunity, but yeah, that's exciting for Tommy. It's exciting for the city of Calgary, and yeah, it's exciting for the CPL. I don't know if there's any other cavalry news necessarily to talk about.
Well, yeah, I have two other notes. More about the contracts that we didn't renew here. So Tom Field and Ayman Sloof. The Sloof one, I think it was a good gamble, in the transfer window in the summer. It just didn't work, I don't think there's any harms. Had a little sample size. It didn't work, so move on. No problem there. The Tom Field, I I kind of thought he earned another contract given the playoff performances that he had. As a depth, I don't think he's a day in, day out starter in the CPL. And maybe he could with another team, but I thought he was tremendous for us, in the playoffs, especially that really, so I was a little bit surprised by that. Again, it's kind of one of these role players you're not really going to get too crazy about, have strong opinions, but I thought in the playoffs he kind of maybe earned another contract. But also, something I mentioned last podcast too, these players, maybe Tom Field feels he's healthy and he wants a chance to prove himself as an everyday CPL player, which I think maybe he can be on another team. I don't think that's the role for him with the Cavalry. So I'm kind of curious to see where he ends up. But yeah, those two players, we did not renew those contracts. So yeah, I don't know. Sean, thoughts on either of those?
Yeah. So for Saloof, I echo your thoughts. Like low risk, low reward contract. He didn't pan out. He was on a show me half year deal with 2 option years. Actually, I think Baldissimo was on the same, right? He's got a 1 year with 2 option years. So
yeah,
upside of the
that's what I
Baldissimo
re-signed to. Yeah,
yeah, upside of the Baldissimo signing is he if he doesn't pan out, cut him at the end of the year and let him go play for Vancouver FC or something. So yeah, Saloof, I remember him being really good in his debut, but it just didn't work out. I think it was that York game where it was basically like 80% possession Cavalry, and we just couldn't. And they nicked a goal off something. That was in the middle of that like really bad streak where we were all just so angry. But yeah, Saloof just not upset about Field. I also echo your thoughts. Like I think, and because he played so well in the playoffs, I think we're going to remember him with rose-colored glasses. He was hurt a lot. He was depth outside of that playoffs, and I think when he first came back after going to League One, I think he won the ball that led to that Akio 97th minute winner. Outside of those 2 plays, like serviceable player, good depth in a pinch. Not really too heartbroken that he's gone. But yeah, I think he has earned a spot with another club should he decide to pursue it. And it's he was here for 5 years, well liked, but he is what he is, and if he can get a bigger role elsewhere, it's worth a shot for sure.
yeah, I really do think that like Tom Field would be a decent CPL starter at like Valor, which unfortunately is not going to be an option for him anymore. But like certainly, I think at a maybe a lower end CPL team, he'd be a good player, and he has his Canadian. I don't know if it's citizenship or residency now, but he's a domestic player, which should help his chances. I do think part of it might have just been like a money thing. Like he's a decent player, but not irreplaceable. He can get cheap depth to fill that role pretty easily, I think, on the open market. And yeah, Saloof, I almost feel like Saloof was a little bit of a panic signing from Tommy, which we've rarely seen. Like Tommy's usually very like calculated in all the things he does, but Saloof was like right in the middle of like the dog shit attack, not scoring, not threatening. So I think it was kind of just like, we have to just fucking try something. He's available. Let's just give him a go. And yeah, that's where we're at now. Also in that one, Diego Gutierrez is apparently out of contract. Although it says they're trying to negotiate. I'm not going to hold my breath on that necessarily, but Um, if this is the end of the Tom Field story with Calvary, which it is, it's been a hell of a ride with the COVID year and then getting injured and then playing with Foothills. And yeah, it's a really good point, Christus. Maybe we could talk about a bit about Chan and Chanda, who started as a exceptional youth talent, I believe it was last year. Uh, Never played really, and then won MVP at Mount Royal, my alma mater, and he's now left us to go to the States.
It's one of these things. You hope your exceptional young talents, get good roles and build up. But yeah, he just didn't play, and he wasn't going to have a path to the first team. So why not go to Mount Royal and light it up, Mount Royal College and light it up, and then and then NCAA, like that opens up some doors in the States if you want. So, if he balls out, he can sign MLS, he can get drafted to MLS, he can sign USL Championship, both of which pay. I think USL pays better than CPL as well. So, see what you can do. And, he obviously did great in U Sports. So see what you could do at a better level and take it from there. And who knows, maybe he'll be back around with Cavalry, and maybe he'll be with the reserve team this year as well, just kind of kick it on when the season's over, and we'll kind of see how it goes.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. He's one of those players where I don't know if it was the hair, obviously as a bald guy, I had a lot of envy of his hairstyle when he first came on the scene with Calvary, but um, it was kind of crazy considering he didn't really like play with the first team that much or get that many minutes. You kind of saw him in warm-ups or like named to the bench or whatnot. Like his stature, like to literally see him grow as a man, it was kind of it was shocking to me to see how much he grew over the little bit of time that I got to see him. So yeah, I mean the little bit of time he had, which wasn't much, um, I think it was one of those things he had more potential than he was ever given an opportunity to. So he's kind of one of those low key players that I cheer for. When I saw him tearing it up for MRU, um, I was happy that he was crushing it, and to get this opportunity, I think this is a good opportunity. I think somebody in his position, probably getting a lot of minutes, playing in a lot of different possession, is probably the best thing for him. And I don't think he was going to get that with the Cavalry. So, I think that makes sense for his career growth, and I think I would like to think this might be naive on my part that he has a good enough relationship with the club that no doors closed. Not saying he necessarily ever comes back, but if the right situation or whatever case presented itself, maybe that's a player that you know, we can sign in the future.
Yeah, certainly. And having watched him play in the MRL in the playoff games, he did very well. He basically got them, dragged them to the final, which was obviously very, very good to see. And he played pretty well in the whole season. And it's always weird. The U.S. college thing is kind of like a whole different ecosystem. Obviously, it's not like as close to being in Calgary or anything like that. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Certainly, what happens with that. So I'm just gonna wrap it up here before we go into the end. I'm just gonna end it by just reading the roster we have now. Just getting any final thoughts on that. Can hopefully go from there. So we have in goal, we have Nathan Ingham and Joe Holiday. Defenders, we have Bradley Camden, Eric Kobza, Dan Klomp, Levi Lang, Callum Montgomery. In midfield, we have Sergio Camargo, Niall Henry, James McGlinchey, Nico Veroniuk, and Michael Baldissimo. Then in attack, we have Kanija Elva, Jay Herdman, Gote Antigny, and Tobias Warshevsky. So obviously, there's still a lot of holes to fill, I think it's fair to say. But certainly the spine of the team is really starting to come together. We haven't really had, apart from Ingham, a big new signing yet. So I'm kind of hoping we get that in the next week or so here. But
Yeah.
I'm curious with Tommy away, like if that kind of slows down business. I know in the Footy Prime podcast that he was great in. Anytime you can listen to Tommy talk, I think it's worth your time. But he kind of mentioned how there's others kind of feeling different roles at the club, which is natural and to be expected. But I wonder if some of this news is on pause with Tommy away, or if we're going to. It certainly feels like there's one more big signing, transformational signing left in the budget, whether that's a Didic or somebody else, or maybe two signings if I'm getting greedy. But yeah, I think the core of the roster's there, and kind of low key, I kind of expect Toby to have a big bounce back season next year. I don't know if that's just the glass half full kind of guy that I am, but he certainly, struggled had periods of length where he struggled, but yeah, so I'm excited by this. I definitely think it's a playoff team. I don't think that's an outrageous statement by myself. Um, and then from there, I think it's too early to really make any kind of crazy predictions because we need to see what the rest of the team shapes out as, but also what the rest of the league does as well. So yeah, I mean, like you said, Luke, the core of the team's there, the spine of the team, and let's see where we go from here.
Yeah, I am confident in saying that Cavalry will finish between first and seventh, with Forge finishing last. So
Yeah, there you go. Well said, Sean. So yeah, I think that'll do it for this episode of the Foot Soldiers podcast. Just thank you all very much for listening and bearing with us. Hopefully, we should be back in a week or two whenever some news drops. Hopefully, we'll have something good to talk about. So thanks. Talk to you guys soon.